So we went in and had a look and we thought, oh no, this is the end of the earth. This is like as hard as you can get. This is hyper arid, and it's 10 acres of almost dead flat, completely salted landscape, 400 metres below sea level, the lowest place on earth, 2 kilometres from the Dead Sea, right, to about 2 kilometres where Jesus was christened. We've hardly got any rainfall. We've got temperatures in August that go over 50 degrees. Everybody's farming under plastic strips. Everybody's spray. Everybody's putting synthetic fertiliser on. Overgrazed with goats, just like maggots eating the flesh off the bone down to the bones of the country. Literally like maggots, giant maggots eating it to nothing. So we designed up a system that would harvest every single bit of rainwater that fell on it. On 10 acres, there's 1.5 kilometres of swale water harvesting ditch on contour, and when they're full, 1 million litres of water soak into the landscape. And they'll fill quite a few times over a winter. And then we heavily mulched those swales with organic matter, which was trash from organic fields nearby. And we put that almost 1/2 metre deep. So we saved that and mulched our swales, which are about 2 metres wide and 1/2 metre deep on the trench. Then we put micro irrigation underneath the mulch. And then on the uphill side of the water harvesting trench, we put nitrogen fixing very hardy pioneer desert trees, which help shade and reduce wind evaporation, and also put nitrogen into the soil and structure the soil for us. And then on the lower side of the trench we put fruit trees, majoring in date palms as the long-term overstory in the end. And then we put in figs, pomegranates, guavas, mulberries, now some citrus. Within 4 months we had figs a metre high with figs on, which is impossible. We'd done a course, male and female course, trained up some locals, and we got a translator who's working for the project. He had his degree in agriculture in the Jordan University, and he got onto his mates and said in the agricultural department, well, you said we couldn't grow figs, we got figs growing and we got figs on them. You better come and test the soil, because no matter what you say, we're either growing in salty soil what we shouldn't be growing, or we've desalted the soil, and we'd like to know what we've done. They came in and the salt levels were dropping, so they became interested. The salt levels were dropping around the swales. They said you must have washed it through. See, normally put a huge amount of water on and wash the salt through to the lower levels, which just makes the groundwater more salty. In the end, you'll salt it 20 metres deep if you keep doing that, and then it will take 1,000 years to recover. And we used only 1/5 the amount of water. So the water, they thought we'd washed it all through. No, we'd used 1/5. That really got them when they realised how much water we hadn't used. With the same amount of water normally used on that much area, we could have done 50 acres. Originally, people laughed at us because we didn't put straight lines in. We went on contour with these swales. They thought, why don't you put it so you've got a bulldozer, you can flatten the desert, you can straighten it. So we want to go on contour because we've got a longer edge and we harvest the water passively. Then we planted more non-fruiting trees than we did fruit trees, so they laughed at us. This is what you're planting unproductive things, more than productive things. What's the point, you know? In soil that won't even grow anything, so you know. And then we covered all the inside of the swale with a huge amount of mulch, where they scrape all their organic matter off and burn it, like most traditional agriculture. In the middle of winter, we got a funny email saying, we've got a problem. We've got mushrooms growing in the swale. Well, they called it fungus, but when we saw a photograph of it, it was mushrooms, because they'd never seen mushrooms, because they never had that much humidity in living history in the soil. And when you open up the mulch, there's all these little animals there, you know, there's little insects, and the soil has come alive. And the fungi net that's underneath the mulch is putting off a waxy substance, which is repelling the salt away from the area. And the decomposition is locking the salt up. And the salt is not gone, it's become inert and insoluble. So we could regreen the Middle East, we could regreen any desert, and we could desalt it at the same time. And if we can do it on an insignificant flat little bit of 10 acres of flat desert, if you give us something with catchment or a wadi or a canyon or any of those erosion gullies, we can turn it right around completely. You can fix all the world's problems in a garden. You can solve them all in a garden. You can solve all your pollution problems and all your supply line needs in a garden. Now most people actually today don't actually know that, and that makes most people very insecure. So these examples have to be set so that the world can have a positive future. But we have to explain that unless this soil management is fully demonstrated, extended and enhanced, then we don't have any future. The world's just going to turn to dust.
قد تمم الله مقاصدنا قد تمم الله مقاصدنا وزال عنا جميع الهم وزال عنا جميع الهم قد الصفا قد صفت معنا ليل الصفا قد صفت معنا ونورها بيننا
يلا يا زلمه نروح من هنا.
تعال عايز وحدة الباص. وحدة الباص بتركب السيارة.
سيارة. منها. هيا تمهم نفسك. بس دي ما الله يخليك الله يكرمك شكرا.
ايش صور اولاد المدرسه؟
لا. Don't object. They never object.
So far no, but he probably doesn't need it.
يرجع يحبسوك يلا.
الشباب يقولوا لي الاخ هذا من
Here we are in the Dead Sea Valley, in the arid desert landscape of Jordan. Just behind me is the Green in the Desert project site, as it's known. And in the background is Palestine. We're not far from the Jordan River, just a few kilometres from the baptism site. Got Bedouin tents, camels, donkeys, goats, sheep, Bedouin pigeons even, chickens and poultry and ducks. The soil's absolutely degraded, complete deforestation. It's just like a powder, overgrazed, overworked and absolutely unproductive. The project site has demonstrated its capabilities, but it's not quite the perfect scenario. And that's what we're going to go and have a look at right now. Here we are at the renowned Green in the Desert site in Jordan in the Dead Sea Valley. This property we originally became involved in 2000, the year 2000, and we were part of the design, consultancy, management, advisory team for 3 years. And this project and property went into a sustainable development where it created its own soil and went into production. After 3 years the funding stopped and it's had no serious management for 6 years, yet the perennial system continues to extend. And although there's not a full understanding of the system, there's an appreciation that the system continues on its own. In the trenches of the soil, where the swale mounds form the trench uphill, the soil creations continued even without design management. The design itself has continued to create good, dark, humus-rich soil. We're at the end of the dry season, so this is when this landscape and this climate is most stressed. Yet here we have humus that's got a little bit of moisture in it. It's thick with mulch. It's a great system to grow in. This is soil creation by ecosystemic overstory, producing its own organic humus, its own diverse humus. There's mixtures of manure in here that inevitably just fall into the swale. This we can enhance And this we can create into a sustainable, productive system that will go on indefinitely. Domestic pigeons, almost an essential part of productive systems in the desert. They fly in freely available nutrient, one of the highest sources of manure for compost and garden fertility. Take very little inputs, hardly any input at all, and this really high-grade manure. A fantastic domestic animal of desert systems. Here we are in an ideal sized crop field, which if managed properly, with the perennial system that is surrounding the field and has the potential to fertilize it and add organic matter, this crop field could be producing continuously with a growing fertility. Instead, with a bit of mismanagement, inappropriate grazing and controlling of goats, which could be an asset to the system because there's plenty of food for goats here, but they have to be in control. And the use of organic matter to fertilize the soil and not burn. Here is a burn pile, and there's multiple burn piles around the property. Careful management for long enough so that the people locally can see what is possible. These drip lines are going up and down hill, where originally our first crop fields here were all on contour. In fact, there is a pattern of some of the contour trenches left over from the original onion crop, which we put in mulched contour trenches. This is quite simple to actually arrange so that it becomes an accumulating fertility that continues to increase in potential. Here we are on conventional mismanaged soil. This field, as you can hear for the birds that are all around us, is surrounded by perennial support species and could be managed sustainably with good organic inputs for free, but instead the soil's been conventionally ploughed. It's just turning back to dust. Some parts of it are just dust and other parts that are just big lumps. Hopefully we can get back into managing sites like this for a little bit longer with a few more test case successes that can then be repeated. But it's a matter of managing our own sites with our own NGOs, with our own systems that we are in control of. That is why we have the Green in the Desert sequel that we're going to take you to and explain that we are in control of it and nobody else can tell us how to mismanage or inappropriately manage on an inappropriate time cycle nutrient flows. Here we are at Grin in the Desert, the sequel, and this is our demonstration site that we've funded, we're in control of, and we will continue to fund with education and run this as a master plan project for the Permaculture Research Institute of Jordan, for the people of Jordan. And we have already established trees here, and we have olives and pomegranates and guavas and some citrus, date palms, multiple legume trees. We're building infrastructure right now. We've got a shower toilet block under construction and a course being taught, the first course, so there's funding already coming in. This will be an ongoing project. This will be a benefit to the permaculture movement globally as a model, and this will be a benefit to the local people of Jordan and the Middle East.
من الردى والعطاء نسلم قد تمم الله مقاصدنا قد تمم الله مقاصدنا وزال عنا جميعا.
بدي احكي مع الدكتور وليد. أنا عملت في مشروع الزراعة المستدامة وتدربت من خلال خبير الزراعة المستدامة جيف لوتن. حصلت على شهادة تصميم نظام الزراعة المستدامة في عام 2003، وعملت في مزرعة في موقع المزرعة الذي نحن فيه الآن لأكثر من سنتين، وقمت بدراسة تأثير نظام الزراعة المستدامة على التربة والنبات والمجتمع المحلي والبيئة. وجدت أن نظام الزراعة المستدامة نظام رفيق بالبيئة، يحافظ على التربة ويحسن من إنتاجية النبات ويحسن من نوعية المنتج الزراعي. قمت بتوثيق خبرتي في إعداد كتيب سميته دليل الزراعة المستدامة، وقمت بتوزيعه للمزارعين والمختصين والمرشدين الزراعيين وأفراد المجتمع المحلي لإفادتهم، كون هذا الموضوع جديد على الأردن ويمكن أن يفيد المزارعين في مختلف أنحاء المنطقة لتحسين نوعية المنتج الزراعي والإنتاج. ومنذ ذلك التاريخ ولغاية الآن أقوم بمتابعة عملي في مجال الزراعة المستدامة والزراعة العضوية، وأقوم بإجراء أبحاث في مجال الزراعة العضوية، في مجال السماد العضوي والاستغلال الأمثل من المياه والحصاد المائي وغيرها من هذه المجالات. وسأقوم بمتابعة دراستي العليا في هذا المجال إن شاء الله.
اسمع انتبهوا لون شوف كيف بيخلط كيف يا باشا قول ادفع 100 دينار يبعت انت بدفع اذا دفعوا بدفع 5 جمعيه 100 يا شباب.
روح بتفيح النيل.
طارق السمادي، موظف في مشروع سكون برما، بشتغل في الزراعة العضوية في المحطة هون من 2004. اشتغلنا على الحصاد المائي وعلى عمل الكومبوست، واحنا حاليا بنقوم بتدريب المزارعين وارشادهم على كيفية استعمال مبادئ الزراعة العضوية والزراعة المستدامة. واحنا كثير يعني استفدنا من خلال المشروع اللي حاليا احنا بنعمل فيه.
في عام 2003 تم عقد دورة في مجال الزراعة المستدامة، وتم التركيز على تقنيات حصاد مياه الأمطار، وقد وجد الخبير الأسترالي جيف لوتن أن هذا الأسلوب متبع منذ قديم الزمان في هذه المنطقة، ولذلك أكد على أهميته وتم تشجيع المزارعين في هذه المنطقة لتنفيذه في المزارع.
الله مقاصدنا قد تمم الله مقاصدنا وزال عنا جميع الهم وزال عنا جميع الهم.
زعلش قط يا بابا.
قومي روحي نون روحي
يات
الله.
هاي شجرة قبل فترة كانت تعبانة جدا وشبه يابسة الشجرة. بعد ما استعملنا الكومبوست لها فالحمد لله يعني وضعها ممتاز جدا زي ما انتم شايفين يعني كويس.
You wouldn't think this was a good starting point for a garden. Pretty rocky, pretty poor soil. But 7 years ago, that's exactly what that looked like. And now it's an abundant food forest with a whole mixture of species. And it's built its own soil. In just 7 years, with an overstory now of Leucaena and Prosopis giving us that lovely filtered shade, we have olives, carob, pomegranate, guava, bananas, apricot, and grapes as a trellis. Ibrahim here took the first course I taught in 2001. He planted this forest immediately, and he got his diploma in 2004. So now we have a fully established system with a fully established permaculture designer and consultant.
As you know, as everyone knows, that Jordan is a water-deprived country. It's the most water-deprived country in the world. So most of we are consuming more than 120% of our renewable water resource. 97% of the Jordanian is receiving less than 200 millimeter rainfall. The other thing is the desert area is the evaporation is 9,000% of the precipitation, while in the highland it's 450% of the evaporation of the precipitation. So it's, I mean, the rainfall that we get, it's completely evaporated. This is one thing. Also, if we demonstrate water harvesting on top of the ground in the surface, it will be disappeared soon, very fast. So the only technique that is suitable for Jordan is store the harvested rainfall under the ground to minimize the evaporation.
أصلا صار لي أستخدم الطرق هاي سنتين، والأفضل الطرق طبعا الحفر الرمادية وتغطية هاي المزروعات بالملش النباتي. الكمبوست كمان. I have been traveling around the world for the last 6 years with Geoff, and I'm been visiting like a different permaculture project around the world. And I understand from all that traveling, if the people need a good design and a good system to put together to help people the way they live. And because it's my idea when I travel and I see how the way people took permaculture so strongly in different countries and help them for the way they live. I come back here and I say, I think we could do it anyway, and especially after the Green in the Desert, and is worked here and been for 8 to 10 years now and working, and we saw the result of it and how it could help people, and that's where I come from. Make a group and work with women and men and put society and then have a new permaculture Jordan.
Here we are, the PDC, the Permaculture Design Certificate course is finished. The first one in Jordan for us on the new project site. We're here planting trees, extending the design and the example, building soil processes, extending the project demonstration site. Our students have left, they've gone back all over the world to great distances, China, Singapore, Italy, Spain, England, even Australia. Here in the Middle East, students have left to go to Egypt and set up project sites under the master plan. Palestine, Turkey, Bulgaria, Syria, Afghanistan, all these places potentially setting up under the master plan demonstration sites and education centres modelled on our example, themed on soil fertility with productivity, a very important link for food security worldwide that we have to realise is a design imperative that we get right for the abundant future that we have to aim for. This is the world of permaculture. This is what we have to do to solve the world's major crisis problems that we have. Supplier resources are needed, local resources, in a sustainable way. This is the world of permaculture. This is what we have to do. We're getting on with it. Come and join us. This is the future.
Assalamu alaikum. Good evening.
Good evening. Salam.
Good evening.
Good evening.